What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Perhaps podcast. And today, this is a big one, everybody. We're talking about the cultural and spiritual significance of the Rizzler. Now, on this podcast, we can talk about a more broad range of topics than I usually do in some of my other stuff. What I usually do is talk about spirituality and society from a more liberationist perspective to try to help people have a more radical imagination. I'm on YouTube and Instagram and other places. And on this podcast, I wanted to have a space where I could get a little bit more creative. And so we got to do an episode about the Rizzler. And I'll explain who the Rizzler is if you don't know. It's this kid who's gone extremely viral, but we're going to talk about who he is, how he got famous, why we actually love the Rizzler, and we're also going to get deep. We're going to talk about the ethics of filming your children and posting them and making them famous. We're going to talk about what the Rizzler should do and my advice for the Rizzler. Are you ready? Let's get into it. I have this big old outline by my side. And I was so ready to record this episode last week. And then I realized it was Valentine's Day. So we did that. By the way, last week's episode was my favorite episode that I've ever done. So if you haven't listened to the Valentine's Day episode from last week, go check that out. But today might be my new favorite, which is exciting. We just keep going. And I'm having more and more fun every time we do this. And so thank you all for being here. Now, who is the Rizzler? Well, he's this kid named Christian. That's his real name. He's 8 years old. He's in third grade. He's born and raised in New Jersey. Italian New Jersey kid with an Italian New Jersey accent. Almost sounds like a little high-pitched Tony Soprano. And he's just a kid that was posted by his dad on social media, and he first blew up from this video where he's dressed up as Black Panther for Halloween, and his dad is telling him to go up a ladder, and he's like,
"No, Mommy said it's not safe. Just because I'm Black Panther doesn't mean that I go up a ladder."
And it was just a cute, fun little video of a cute, fun kid, and went viral. And then the Rizzler name, well, for those who don't know, don't worry. Those who are in on this stuff, I got you, okay? For those who aren't as brain-rotted as me, I got you. For those who are brain-rotted as me, I probably got some stuff that you don't know as well. So stay tuned, everybody. And so the Riz face is how he got the name Rizzler. Now, the Riz is a word that got pretty popular a couple of years ago, mostly from Twitch streamers like Kai Cenat, Duke Dennis, and his friends. We don't need to know them, but they're very popular Twitch streamers with young people these days. And the word Riz is pretty much short for charisma, and they would talk about Riz as pretty much like use it as like game, like to be able to flirt with a girl and succeed. And so they would talk about like, who's got more Riz, me or you? And eventually people would associate this face that it was all memes. It was all very ironic. It was never really serious. Sometimes you'll hear people use these words and faces seriously, but then those people just get clowned because it's always just been a fun joke internet thing. But the Riz face is basically, I'm going to try to do this on camera for those who are watching. But by the way, this is on YouTube, brand new YouTube channel, just called Perhaps with Damon Garcia. You can see this Riz face live. So you put your hand down here on your chin. So I mean, there's several meme faces over the years that have evolved into this one. And so it's this, and then you got to suck your cheeks in, what some kids these days called mewing, which was a whole thing. We don't need to go super deep in that, but basically people would say like it helps you get a better jawline. It's also connected to incels in a weird way. We don't need to get into it. Anyway, suck in your cheeks. It's also a little bit of the duck face in there, but try not to be too much duck face. And then you got to put your eyebrow up. The Rizzler has taught many people how to do this face, by the way, including Jimmy Fallon himself. But put an eyebrow up. Am I doing it? Do I got the Riz face, y'all? And then usually what Rizzler adds he'll do this with at his chin, and then with his index finger do like an outline of his jaw of his jawline that is actually non-existent for little Rizzler. But we're trying out here. I'm trying to do my best to give y'all the full picture because we're talking about some very deep stuff, okay? So this kid started doing that face that he learned from his friends at school, and then the Rizzler was like a name on TikTok that people would just randomly say. It's like the Riddler, except the Rizzler. And so his friends just started calling him, "You're the Rizzler, man." And he embraced it. And then he just started doing the Riz face a bunch on TikTok and blew up even more. Meanwhile, new characters incoming. This is the we're crossing that first threshold in that Joseph Campbell hero's journey right now. Then conflict strikes. AJ and Big Justice, the Costco guys. I'll be quicker on this lore, but a dad and son, young son. I think the son is about 10 years old. And the dad has been making online videos since his son was like a baby. He had a family vlog at first. A lot of people don't know that. I'm deep in this lore. This is important, okay? And so making random videos, mostly of himself and sometimes with his family, just trying to get some attention. He used to be a wrestler, so this entertainment stuff was always in his spirit. And so eventually they decided to do a popular trend where people were making videos and they would say something like, of course I'm blank. I blank. Or they would just like give these like stereotypical things to a certain interest or identity or job. It would be a funny thing. I can't think of any other ones right now, but so they made a video like that, him and his son.
We're Costco guys. Of course we go shopping while eating a chicken bake.
We're Costco guys. Of course we had to try the new double chunk chocolate cookie.
We're Costco guys. Of course we have to try out the furniture.
And it just blew up because it was just silly and weird. That's really why it blew up. It was the love around them is so deeply ironic, which is such a mark of Generation Z meme culture. And so they saw the Rizzler on TikTok and little Big Justice, which is the son. Big Justice is his name. It's his government name. No, I don't know his government name. I didn't go that deep, y'all. I'm not that brain rotted, but he was like, I like this kid. He's funny. We need a dad. Can we hang out with him? And they met up. Because I think they're in New Jersey too, or close to New Jersey, something like that. They met up, started making videos together. People saw the three of this dad, the Rizzler kid, and Big Justice kid, and were like, I guess this is just one big happy meme family. And then people would always be shocked to hear, oh, the Rizzler isn't related. They're just randomly hanging out with this kid and making food rating videos. This is weird, but I guess kind of cool.
Boom or doom?
A chicken bake?
Or a double chunk chocolate cookie?
I'm gonna have to give the chicken bake the boom and the double chunk chocolate a doom.
You heard it from the Rizzler.
But the Rizzler is the one who kept blowing up more and more and more and more. Mostly because his videos are just him hanging out and being a kid. And then they have ended up going on Jimmy Fallon, all three of them, on all kinds of different podcasts, even separately on podcasts. And I watched this interview with him. This was my research, y'all. I watched his interview on this podcast called Growing Up Italian. And he was just like a very, very, very shy kid. Like he was barely speaking up. And it was clear like this is just a kid that was making videos with his dad that just blew up. So why do we love this kid, the Rizzler? Why do we love the Rizzler? Okay, so let's get into the spiritual significance of this, y'all. And when I say the word spiritual, What I really mean is the depth dimension to life that connects all of us. We are so different in so many ways, each of us. And yet, there's some things that unite us. Some things that can't be answered by science or materialism. And so that's an interesting conversation to have. So what is it that like stirs within our spirit when we see this Rizzler? Well, one big thing I think is we're all so tired, period, but also we're all so tired of just the most controversial people being made famous. I mean, you've seen this with the evolution of social media algorithms where people are incentivized to be more and more and more controversial in order to get more eyeballs, in order to get more money. And so what we see again and again is these types of people become famous. But not only that, but our algorithm train us to also engage with that content more and more and more and more and more and more. The algorithms, the way they work is, well, first of all, these social media companies make money off advertisers. And so they've tweaked the algorithm over time to make it so that you stay on the app scrolling for as long as possible. And they do that so that you can see more ads. The more ads you see, the more impressions that ad gets, which means they can charge for each impression that the ad gets on somebody's feed. And so whatever piece of content, whatever post gets you to stop the scroll and pay attention and watch to the end, those posts are what get recommended to other people's feeds. But here's the thing. Some of those posts, we're not stopping our scroll and watching because it's something that brings us joy, but it's because we can't look away. It's like some drama, some people arguing, some people screaming at each other that's caught in public that somebody filmed them, or someone being really hateful and bigoted, or someone that is just doing something really disgusting, and or a fight between like two kids. I hear that all the time. Like I keep seeing these fight videos and it's disturbing me. Or some like really overly sexualized content. And it's like, it stops more so because like this deep part of our brain that is just like more animalistic, I think, that is just, what is that? And we stop it and watch it. And then we're like, well, that was awful. Let me keep scrolling, find something else. Another awful thing. Oh my God, what is that? Watch the whole thing. Well, that was awful. Please let me find some cool cat videos. And then the algorithm is like, well, I guess this person must enjoy this type of content because they keep watching it. And it's like, no. So that there needs to be a balance for sure with that type of algorithm, because from their end, they're like, well, we keep feeding you awful videos because you're signaling to us that you like them. And it's like, no, I don't. Just show me the Rizzler. And so we see the Rizzler blow up, and it's so like wholesome. And it's like, oh my God, finally someone that isn't awful being made famous. It's just this cool, cute, wholesome kid. And I think a big thing too is like, it reminds us of like our little cousins, our little nephews, little brothers, or for those who have children, maybe reminds you of your children. And I think even bigger than that, watching the Rizzler and specifically watching the Rizzler just be a normal kid reminds us of the childhood that we miss, that we're all so often nostalgic for. Because we've become so serious, haven't we? We've become so burnt out, exhausted, discouraged, cynical. And then we see something like this. We're just, oh yeah, a kid having fun. And it reminds us like, oh yeah, I used to have fun. And maybe you still do have fun, but we remember a time where it was like life was only about having fun. Remember that? And it was just like, yeah, let's dress up as a superhero and make funny voices and play pretend and play games and joke around and make funny faces like the Riz face. And it's just like, oh yeah, life used to be cool, and it really can be cool when we remember to re-engage that childlike part within ourselves that is able to approach life with more play and less seriousness, more silliness, more fun. And so I think that's a big reason why so many of us love watching stuff like this. But then I think a big thing too is children in general have a tendency of snapping us adults out of our cynicism. Have you ever experienced that? And maybe it's like, yeah, with your little cousins, you're helping with some class, some daycare or babysitting, or the weird neighbor kid comes over to your yard, and it's like, oh yeah. Sometimes you're in a situation where these kids can make you laugh in a way that you realize you haven't in a long time. And like I said, you remember when you were a kid. And I think the same thing is happening with the Rizzler, where we see the Rizzler and it's like, oh, this is so much better than the awful stuff my feed feeds me. I forgot how to laugh. I forgot how to have fun. And so there is this fan culture that has emerged around the Rizzler. And I would see on TikTok all the time. I mean, this has been going on for about a year, but I would see on TikTok all the time a lot of people in the comments, mostly men, who would say, young men, who would comment things like, I would die for the Rizzler. I would take a bullet for the Rizzler. And it's all, yeah, it's very deeply ironic, but there is a type of sincere message, which is like, I care a lot about this. Or sometimes they would say like, the Rizzler's the only thing keeping me alive right now. And he doesn't even know it. And then like slowly I would see also young women being like, the Rizzler's like my son. There's a video of him in like Walmart or something with his dad. And I guess his mom like went to go to some other part of the store to look for something. And the Rizzler starts telling his dad, like, where's mom? And he starts like putting on this crying voice and almost crying. I think the dad was joking around like, oh, she's gone. And he was like, no, I can't find her. Where is she? And he started to cry. And like, after you've seen so many of these funny Rizzler vids, and then you see this video, it's crushing. It's soul crushing. It's like, no, don't let the Rizzler cry. And then his mom comes in at the end and it's chill. But it's like, there's such a deep connection I think many people have formed with these videos. A lot of it is very parasocial, which is like basically like a fake, phony connection with someone that doesn't even know we exist. But at the same time, I think there is something interestingly wholesome going on as well in the way that it reminds us of our childhood. Now, let's get a layer deeper. I bet y'all didn't realize, by the way, how deep we've gotten so far that we'd even be here. But of course, this is perhaps, y'all. We got to talk about this. Now let's talk about the ethics, okay? Let's begin this conversation about the ethics of filming and posting your kids and making them famous by talking about Ryan. Who's Ryan? Ryan's Toy Reviews. One of the most famous kids out there. Now, of course, Ryan's Toy Reviews was much after my time. I never seen his videos, but then I started hearing about him when I started looking into like these YouTube records of like most views, most subscribers, and who's getting like these billion view videos or near billion view videos. And Ryan's Toy Reviews kept popping up, which is very much for kids, preschool kids mostly. And it's his parents filming their little son, Ryan, playing with toys and reviewing them. And it started, apparently, according to the origin story given by the mom, that when one day little Ryan said, "How come I'm not on YouTube and all the other kids are?" And like, okay, let's go to the store and film you in the toy section and playing with a toy. And I guess a lot of people liked the video, I guess because it was just a cute little kid. And then they realized like, oh yeah, we have a knack for this. Let's keep filming videos of him playing with toys. And he's having fun. And he loves toys. It works out for all of us. And then they started making money. A lot of money. And even more so, it's like, awesome, let's do this. Then it became the primary source of income for the family. And there's even more incentive to keep going. Then they got the opportunity to do paid reviews. It wasn't like just let's get a toy from the store and see if he likes it. It became advertisements that they're being paid a lot of money for by toy companies because these videos were getting a lot of views. That's when, eventually, years later, the Federal Trade Commission stepped in and recently filed a complaint against the channel and the family for not following the rules set by the Federal Trade Commission of disclosing when an ad is an ad. And you may have seen this over time, some of these little markers on a post on Instagram or YouTube or wherever else where it says, "This is an ad." And that's partly because of a new rule that the Federal Trade Commission set years ago, because people were manipulating their viewers by making it seem as if, hey guys, check out this product. I just really like it. You should check it out too, without disclosing that they were paid to say that, which is deceptive. And so now you have to say this is an ad, but now often on a lot of these sites, you can even like check a little button and it'll give a little sign there that this is an ad or this is a sponsored video. And so, but the other thing is that made Ryan's Toy Reviews especially guilty of breaking this rule is that these ads that were always disclosed as ads were targeted toward preschool kids who can't consent to being advertised to. So there's an extra layer of deception and manipulation that is at risk here. And so the other thing, people are starting to notice this Ryan kid is getting older. He's 12. He's going to be 13 this year. He looks a lot different than he did when the channel started. And people are starting to feel weird about it. And of course, it's people that shouldn't be watching Ryan's Toy Reviews. It's like it's adults or teenagers, and it's like, but this is how I started to hear about the channel again too, and just seeing these posts of people being like, "Yeah, this is a little strange. Are his parents like forcing him to do this? Because there's no way that this kid who's almost a teenager still wants to play with these little kid toys." And they started doing these series. I went and checked on the channel, and they're also doing like these skits and acting out stuff. It's like it's starting to get high production, like actual kids cable TV show. And so it's tricky to know, like, does this kid actually want to do this? Is he even aware if he wants to do it or not? Because he's also a kid. It's like his brain is still developing. Like, even if he would say, of course I want to do this, this is fun, is that really what he feels? Like, he may not have developed enough mind to even be fully aware of that, which is why like consent is always such a big conversation with minors. And we don't even know, is the family forcing him to do this? Is this something he wants to do? Is this an exploitative relationship because the family's main income depends on this kid? It gets a little sketchy. And I bring that up to say, like, there's a lot of kids in that situation where so many families start out by just posting their kid and having fun. And then they realize they can make money off it. And this capitalist hellscape we live in makes it, I think, a lot more alluring to just go along with, oh yeah, I can like stop working a normal job and exhausted myself over it and spend time with my family all day, every day, if we just become family content creators. I think it starts out as very alluring and it seems like the best thing at the time. And then it could potentially turn into something really dangerous. Now let's talk about perhaps the most dangerous case of recent. A couple years ago, this family vlog channel got in a lot of big trouble, led by this mom, Ruby Frank. Let's talk about Ruby Frank and her business partner and podcast co-host, Jody Hillebrandt, who was living with her. And they hosted a podcast about basically like living a holy life. They're Mormon, by the way, like living a godly life and disciplining your children in a quote unquote godly way, which really meant being extremely abusive. And now they wouldn't go that far, but the way they would talk about controlling their children was definitely raising a lot of red flags. But even before that podcast started, their family vlog was also raising some red flags about the ways that she would treat her children. And a similar thing, it started where like this mom seemed to just want to be creative and film vlogs. Vlogs were a big thing at the time, and she was filming her family, and then it started doing well. This Utah family and this Mormon Utah family who and it was how many? I think it was like 6 kids, and also with a dad too. But the dad eventually got kicked out. It's a very long story. I'm not going to get into the whole thing. I've actually been looking more into it lately, and I was thinking of making a video on it, but I'm not sure. We'll see. But what ended up happening was that this one of the young kids, I think he was 8 or 10 years old, boy, was staying at Jody, the friend's house, and he was tied up in a closet, and he had wounds on his knees from being tied up, and they had put cayenne pepper and honey in his wounds and wrapped him up with tape. And in order to punish him, the whole philosophy, rationale that they had when they would punish these kids this harshly was that we're not punishing you, we're punishing the demon. We're trying to torture the demon to get out of you because the demon is making you misbehave. But the misbehavior was like such small things, and like making a face with attitude or something. And the punishment was always very, very extreme. And so one day he escaped that house, ran to a neighbor's house. And in this neighborhood, the houses were very far apart, and knocked on that door. They didn't answer. Went to the next house, knocked on that door. They came out, this older man, and he asked if he could call the police. And he noticed that this kid was very skinny from not eating, looked very unhealthy, had these wounds, looked very clearly abused. And they called the police, and then they went and found the other children, went and found Ruby Frank and Jody Hillebrandt, arrested them. And it was, I think, a pretty simple court case. I think part of the judgment is still going on to this day. But yeah, and those kids got out. Two of them were adults, but the whole story is just very, very horrific. And I think what really made this story really popular was not only the extent of the abuse, but the fact that this woman was posing as this happy, wholesome, loving family vlogger who just loved filming her good times with her kids. And it got exposed that she was like the extreme opposite of that. And those kids are actually experiencing the extreme opposite of what she was trying to show the world. And so it's this, like I said, was like a very extreme case. I know we're talking about the Rizzler. Don't worry, we're going to tie this all back to the Rizzler. And of course, I'm not saying that this is what's happening to the Rizzler at all. I don't think I can make that judgment. I don't know these guys, his family. I don't know his dad. His dad is the one who primarily films and posts the videos and will engage with the comments. But I can't pass that judgment. There's always cases that are, there's always exceptions. Maybe this is an exception. I can't pass the judgment. Maybe they're cool. Maybe they're great. But here's why I bring that up. Because that risk of such severe danger, I think, began with this exploitative relationship through the family vlog that just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Before some of that abuse, just the family vlog dynamic in general was already, some would call, abusive. First off, there's already a sketchy relationship when like I've been saying, the family's primary income is dependent on the kid. But here's the other thing. Children featured in family vlogs that are making money are essentially employees. But the thing is, these kids who are essentially employees don't have the legal labor protections that other employees would typically have. That's sketchy, right? And so this can also create an abusive, exploitative dynamic. Sherry Frank, the oldest daughter, who had moved away to college by the time this was all exposed, the oldest daughter of Ruby Frank, she spoke at this Utah court case where she talked about how, and it was really like just trying to bring attention to this exploitative, abusive relationships that family vlogs find themselves in. And she was saying how Utah has become a hotspot for family vlogging because the Mormon Church promotes having big families. And also, the bigger the families, the more lucrative a family vlog can be. And she said in this speech she gave, and I want to show you a clip of it, but I think the big thing she said was, I want to be clear that there is never a good reason for posting your children online for money or fame. There is no such thing as a moral or ethical family vlogger. Watch this fuller clip.
There is no such thing as a moral or ethical family vlogger. At first, family vlogging is an alluring business that can bring high revenue. For my family, it became the primary source of income, as is often the case with most full-time family vloggers. Many child influencers are paid for their work, as I was, and this money has helped me in my adult life. However, this payment was usually a bribe. For example, we'd be rewarded $100 or a shopping trip if we filmed a particularly embarrassing moment or an exciting event in our lives. Or other times, simply going on vacation was expected to be payment enough, because most kids don't get to go on regular and expensive trips. Never mind the fact that the child's labor is actually what paid for the vacation or trip. There is no law in place to guarantee that child influencers get any money from their work. If a family account does not become an LLC, parents are taxed heavily for paying their children. But parents also receive tax write-offs for the regular clothes that they wear, the gas money used to drive places, and even the houses they live in. Anything that is filmed can be written off. And even after registering their business as an LLC, there is no guarantee that children will get paid. Any payment that does happen is under the table with no paper trail. And how do we determine how much a child should make from appearing in family content? What price is worth giving up your childhood? But despite any monetary payment children may receive, don't let this excuse the 24/7 labor that these children are subjected to. As a child, I was fully aware that I was an employee. The business was successful when I was happy or when I shared my hardships with the world. Some of our most popular videos were when my eyebrow was accidentally waxed off and the whole world saw a crying teenager when I just wanted to mourn in private. Or the time I was violently ill and got the leading role in the video that day. My friends became scarce because dates were filmed and none of my friends wanted to be on camera. The camera never stops and there is no such thing as a break from filming. At the time, I tell you I had a choice in what was filmed, but I've come to learn that every child influencer, in a way, suffers from Stockholm Syndrome. Most child influencers would probably tell you they have full control over what is posted, but the reality is that their parents bribe and shame them into posting their most vulnerable moments. In fact, many child influencers may tell you that they enjoy their work because of the monetary perks they receive or the fun experiences that they can have. After all, what child would say no to a fun vacation or shopping spree if all they needed to do was film an embarrassing moment? But as children, we do not understand the consequences of filming our lives and posting it for the world to see. We cannot give consent to our parents to post our lives. In any other context, it is understood that children cannot give consent, but for some reason, people think family vlogging is different. I did not realize the impact that filming as a child would have on me now. My social media became flooded with rumors of having sexual relations with my own brother, to being called a baby birthing machine at the age of 13. All these things have stuck with me, and I will forever live between the ages of 13 to 17 in many of my viewers' minds. In addition, pedophiles stalk the internet, specifically seeking out child influencers. I promise you that the parents are aware of these predators and choose to post their children anyway. I understand that this is a big issue to tackle, and I am not asking you to ban family vlogging, though that is my end goal. I also understand that as Utahns, we don't appreciate big government overreach. But when it comes to protecting children, it should be a bipartisan issue.
Yeah, that's heavy. This can get really serious. And like I said, I'm not here to cast judgment on the Rizzler or his dad. Of course, no judgment on the Rizzler himself, but especially, I'm not trying to judge his dad, but because I don't know the family dynamic. I don't know how the money works or any of that. But what I want to make clear is that when we make kids famous, we need to consider that the life that they get thrust into by becoming famous and becoming these content creators who provide money for the family is that it exposes them to the risk of extreme exploitation. Of course, many families can have a different dynamic that protects them from this, but the risk for that is so much higher than other kids. And there's a lot of parents who don't know how to handle that risk. And the ones who don't are the ones who raise the risk even higher. And in September of 2024, California, I'm in California, by the way, for those who don't know, in Santa Maria, California on the Central Coast. And our boy, Gruesome Newsome. Let's not get into Newsome right now. I don't think I've ever said the words Gruesome Newsome, but I see that sign sometimes on people's yards for years. Gruesome Newsome. Anyway, September 2024, the California governor, Gavin Newsom, signed 2 pieces of legislation for kids like this. Assembly Bill 1880 and Senate Bill 764. And here's from the Davison-Gilbert law summary. It says, California's new child influencer laws expand protections for children who perform in online content. Effective January 1st, 2025, content creators who feature minors in at least 30% of their content must deposit 65% of the minor's gross earnings into a trust account for when they reach adulthood. Child influencers are now included within the definition of child performers who receive earnings protections under California's Coogan law. Marketers and those hiring child influencers directly will need to implement policies to verify the existence of Coogan trust accounts and prepare to pay 15% of earnings directly into those accounts. So this is a humongous step. I think there should be more legislation that protects these child influencers, which is such a wild term to use in the first place, but this is a huge step. And I want to see this all over the country because, the Frank family was in Utah, the Rizzlers in New Jersey. Let's get some of this legislation all over the place. And it's interesting too with the money. And I think it's really important, that money and what can happen to the family dynamic when that kind of money is involved. And these things can't just be left up to families choosing the moral choice. There needs to be regulation in these cases. And another big thing, quite a few years back, a change in laws protecting children was the COPPA Act. It stands for Children's Online Privacy Protection Act. And one of the major things in this act was that it made it illegal for children under the age of 13 to have and control a social media account. And so if they figure out somehow, I'm not sure exactly how this works, but if they figure out that a kid who's under 13 is doing his social media account, then they'll nuke him. They delete him. And so and this is on like Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that. But part of the COPPA Act, why that became such a big thing is because people were realizing like how dangerous the internet was for kids in general, especially when money is involved, when people are making money off of content geared toward children. And whenever there's money to be made off content, there will be people that try to game the system to just get more and more and more and more money. And so one of the things a lot of people were talking about back then was, I think this was like back in 2015, around there. There's a controversy called Elsa Gate. You can look it up and go down the rabbit hole. But Elsa Gate was a thing because people were starting to notice that a lot of kids' YouTube videos that people were making they would make videos like live action of adults dressed up as characters. Some would be Spider-Man or Superman, the Joker, or Elsa. And they would also make animations of these characters. And in both types of videos, the characters would just basically just be running around and making noises and interacting and just like saying gibberish. And it was very much brain rot, but it would keep your attention, especially for a little kid. But some of these videos were inappropriate. Some of these videos would be like these cartoon characters or live action characters would be like humping each other or pushing, fighting each other, or even stabbing each other. And it got real twisted pretty fast. And so people started speaking out and saying, this is messed up. Why is YouTube allowing this? Another major thing that people were noticing on YouTube is that they would find these videos of children who were like posted by their parents. It would be like a little volleyball, basketball, baseball game, gymnastics meet, or playing in the backyard with their cousins. Little videos like that families would post of their little kids, and the comments would have adults being creepy. And sorry, I'm trying to get layer by layer here. I'm not trying to disturb you too much, but some of the comments would also be people posting timestamps, which is like you post like a 20-second mark, and then you click on the 20-second mark, and it takes you to the 20-second mark in the video, and it would be a part where like the kid is in a weird position, like bending over or something. And it would be just perverts, terrible people who were like signaling the other perverts. And so there was a period quite a few years back where people were like, this is really bad. Something really needs to happen. And I think they were starting to lose some advertisers too, which is like, yeah, we'll really get the attention of these social media companies. And so they changed a bunch of rules. And there's some more rules too that were changed, but those are the big ones that I remember at the time when this was like a big discussion. I mean, a lot of big YouTubers and commentary channels were talking about this at the time. I remember seeing, and one of the changes was the COPPA Act. One of the changes was if you're a minor with a YouTube channel, comments are automatically turned off. If they're able to find you out, or if there's a kid in the video, I think if their algorithms are able to detect that, they turn the comments off. I believe minors on a lot of social media accounts aren't literally able at all. It disables you, disallows you from messaging adults, and yeah, there's some protections in place. But this is just the beginning. There's so many more steps we need to take to protect children, especially on this world where we're increasingly connected. And the last thing I wanted to say on this point of the ethics of all this was, we hear these days, people will ask kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? And there's a lot of kids that say a content creator or a YouTuber. Most recently, what a lot of kids are saying is a streamer, a live streamer, like somebody who hosts a live stream on Twitch or YouTube or some of these things, because they see some of their favorite creators that get a lot of attention being content creators, streamers, YouTubers. And a lot of kids want to be famous. And you see this increasing over the years, more and more and more, as the internet grows and as more and more people are able to make careers out of making content. More and more kids say that's what they want to be, because this evolved over time. And recently I saw someone say that what kids really want when they say that they want to be content creators is the freedom and to express themselves. And I think the freedom is recognizing, first of all, how much money these people are making. And you see these like content creators who are able to like get a big house, get a cool car, go on these trips. And they recognize that money is able to bring that. But I don't think it's exactly money that they want. They want the freedom that money can bring them. And that's the thing too, you hear a lot these days, is young people who want to be rich or think they're going to be rich. And that's another scary statistic. But it's about freedom. They're looking for freedom that they think money can bring. And then to express themselves is also a humongous thing, especially in this world that's so oversaturated with all this content online. And so many kids feel like they can't express themselves, either because their family dynamic or their friend dynamic or school dynamic makes it hard for them and dismisses them and ignores them, but also because like they're still a kid and they have trouble putting their feelings into words and forming their perspective in a way that feels right to them. And then they see these adults online that seem to be able to express themselves so freely. And it's like, that's the life I want. That's what I want to be when I grow up. And so I think that's something we really need to pay attention to in the way we organize society and make a better world for these kids to grow up into, is focus on how can we help people feel more free, less constrained by this capitalist system that makes it so much increasingly difficult to find your footing and get a good job, make a good living, get a house, go to college affordably. As that becomes harder and harder, they feel more and more constrained and like they have less and less freedom. That needs to change. And secondly, we need to reorganize society in a way that makes children feel heard in their families and in their communities. And there's a lot of steps to take toward that. A lot of steps. And so what's the future? What's the future look like for the Rizzler? Well, on the Growing Up Italian podcast, which is a fun little interview, if you want to go deeper on the lore, they asked him what he wants to be, and he said he wants to be a comedian. And then he paused, and then he said, or an actor. And I think that's interesting, because the Rizzler has to pivot, y'all. If the Rizzler wants to succeed and remain in this world and expressing himself in this fun way with his family, he's got to pivot. Which could sound so weird and like commercial language, but I believe in like I said, like, I'm not here to judge him or his family. I think he can continue to make something that's really special. And I would like to really see him be as creative as he possibly can. I think that's what excites me, is this opportunity to be creative. I'm someone who's always been creative since I was a very, very, very little kid. I was writing stories when I was in like kindergarten, and then second grade, I really started writing a bunch of short stories and took it very seriously. It was very important to me. In junior high, I started writing songs. High school, I started recording songs, making rap music. I was performing. Then, and I was also learning about film. I was in film class all 4 years of high school, and did a little bit in a community college, and learned a lot about film and writing and music, and art has always just been such a huge thing. And then to this day, I ended up finding other ways of expressing myself. I was in ministry in church for a while, and teaching, preaching. Thought I was going to be a pastor. Ended up finding a great creative outlet through the kind of work I do online. Talking about what I talk about, writing books. I wrote a book called it's behind me in this video, called The God Who Riots, Taking Back the Radical Jesus. Came out in 2022. And all my local friends are artists. And so being creative has always been such a huge part of my life. And I recognize that I also had very, very supportive parents that enabled me to be creative and to express myself in a way that I know a lot of other kids didn't get to experience. And I recognize I had a special community of friends that were creative, especially in junior high and high school, and even had a school that had a film department. Like, that was a humongous deal to have. I didn't really realize it at the time until later, when I heard about other people's high school experiences. And like, I had these resources that shaped me and allowed me to express myself that I'm so grateful for. And so from that perspective, I want to see the Rizzler be able to be as creative as possible. And my advice, finally, let's end this podcast with my advice. By the way, thank you for listening to this whole thing, or watching this whole thing on YouTube. I really appreciate it. Thank you for diving very deep, layer by layer, with me on the cultural and spiritual significance of the Rizzler. I appreciate y'all for sticking around. You type of people who are down to get all the way to this part of the podcast, you're my type of people. Okay? You're my people. I appreciate you. This was fun. Now, my advice to the Rizzler: write everything down. You need to start writing, my friend. Get a notebook, a journal, the Notion app, or some type of writing app on your iPad, you iPad kids. Something to write stuff down, and write down as much as possible. Write about what's happening, because you're going to forget all this. This is such a weird experience you're going through, Riz. And I don't expect the Rizzler to watch this, but I mean, he's blown up, and I'm pretty sure he's starting to get a team, if he doesn't have one already, who's helping him continue to succeed. And it's very possible that somebody from the Rizzler's team, whose job is to maintain his image, of course, I have no idea if the Rizzler the Rizzler's family has hired anybody like this, but it's possible. Maybe that guy is watching this podcast right now, making sure I don't say anything bad about the Rizzler. I don't know. So maybe that guy could get this message to the Rizzler. Write everything down. You're in a very weird time in your life. You're going to forget a lot of it. Write as much down as you possible about what you're going through, what you're feeling, who you're meeting, what it's like to be a kid going through all this. And it'll help you formulate your thoughts and feelings in a way that you'll really grow to appreciate as you get older. Secondly, write down ideas. He said he wants to be a comedian. He had a couple jokes that he said on that podcast that he said he made up. Write down those jokes. Every single idea you come up with, every single joke you come up with, story you come up with, keep a notepad with you and write it down. You're going to forget. But this is how you get better. This is how you get more and more creative. This is how you get the type of creative life that you want, is by writing all your ideas down. And read, man. Study these people that you want to be like, these comedians you want to be like, these actors you want to be like. Read and read and read and write and write and write. I want to see you be as creative as possible. Oh yeah, he draws. I forgot. I saw a video a long time ago where he drew the Joker and all the comments. It was like a very childish drawing, but all the comments were like, this is a masterpiece. And keep drawing, keep writing, make some music. Oh man, I really hope that kid is writing as much as possible. So I appreciate you, Rizzler. Thank you for bringing joy to me. Thank you for bringing joy to my friends. Thank you for bringing joy to these people watching. I'm sure they wouldn't watch this far unless they got some sort of joy. And thank you all for watching. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.